Are you there? There you go.
You bet. So, welcome to Kent's Cabaret Theater in the fantastic Magic Center in Georgetown, Texas. I am Kent Cummins, and this is my magic room. And this is not, as Ranger Bob would say, my first rodeo. Uh, Back in 2005, when Fred Scott Donaldson passed, the great Scott, Judy asked if I would do a broken wand ceremony for him, and I was concerned because I had never done such a thing. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what it involved. And I did a lot of research and found out it's a very standard tradition in all of the different magic clubs that when we lose a magician, we conduct the broken wand ceremony. And there are a lot of different ways to do it. So that was my first experience. And interestingly, I had watched Fred make magic wands, the great Scott. He would go to McCoy's, not Home Depot. He would go to McCoy's, he would buy some dowels, he would cut them into, I think it was thirds. Then he would sand off the edges where he'd cut them. Then he would paint them white and hang them with clothespins on a clothesline in his garage. The magic store was in the garage. And when that dried, he'd tape them and then paint the middle part black and hang them to dry again. And then using very, very, very fine sandpaper, he would sand them down. So that's the way he made his magic wands. And I had several of them, which means I had an extra one. And that's what we used for his broken wand ceremony, was actually a magic wand that he had made. So it was quite meaningful at the time. And I didn't think more about it for years until last year my dear friend Mike Winslet died in a tragic fire. And some of you may know him as Squeaky the Clown, but he was somebody I worked with all the time and missed horribly, and he didn't really leave much family. And so Chris Walden and I decided we would create a memorial for service for him and a broken wand ceremony. And so that was the second time. And then the third time, most of you probably remember, was just this year in July, when Ramon Galindo passed peaceably in his sleep at the age of 99. And we were able, that was the first real event we had here. We had a hybrid broken wand ceremony that went on for an hour. Tonight's will not, hopefully. But it was international. Over 100 people watching from all over the place. And we had just a handful of his family here and a couple of magicians right here on the site. So I've done this before, but this one is different in a very unusual and what I think is unique way. This is the first time the magician himself has asked me to conduct his broken wand ceremony. It's just
Very organized.
yeah. Bethel and Ron and I were having a nice lunch with him after he got out of the hospital. Elaine was serving all kinds of food. Other family members were there. We just had a really good visit, which is nice. It's nice to be able to do that. He was aware that he only had days, not weeks. But he had as good an attitude as you can possibly have about such a thing and seemed to be at peace with it. Then we're telling stories and laughing and having a good time. And at one point he turns to me and says, "Kent, would you conduct a broken wand ceremony for me when I go?" And I went, whoa. I was stunned. That, of course, there's only one answer. Yes, Bob, of course. And I'm proud to be allowed to do that tonight. But thinking about it, it doesn't take long to break a wand. There needs to be more memory of the magician involved. And I thought, well, I have a magic wand that I think Bob would have really liked. He may have even seen it, because this is a magic wand that I put together for Georgetown when I was teaching fraction field trips, basically teaching math magic to kids at Georgetown. And I can remember Bob coming to visit because he always supported whatever was going on anywhere, but in the magic clubs that I was aware of. And of course he would stop and do a couple tricks for the kids and so on. So it has that memory, but also one of Bob's favorite kinds of magic was math magic. He just loved the intricacy, the brain work, to do very clever math magic. And I remember the first time I saw him do an incredible thing, which I'd call the lightning calculator or something. He could basically come up with answers faster than you could on your phone. And it was at a SAM meeting. I remember it well. And then later he performed it again for the South Austin Card Group. And he taught it. He explained how easy it was. Yeah. As far as I know, nobody in the card group has started doing that particular trick because it wasn't easy, but it was the kind of thing that just intrigued him, and it was so much fun. And so that magic wand reminded me so much of Bob. And this is another trick that I used to do at Georgetown. This is a piece of metal that happens to be a geometric figure because mathematicians don't just love numbers, they love shapes. In fact, I can remember a time or two that Bob was particularly admiring a shape. I digress. This is a equilateral triangle. That means each of the three sides is the same length. But if you look at it a different way, it becomes a different kind of triangle. And actually, it doesn't have to be a triangle. It could be a square, which is also a rectangle, which can also be a parallelogram, which could also be a diamond. And oddly enough, it could even be a circle. And that was a trick that I showed the kids at Georgetown, but it reminds me of Bob in another way. You see, this is different things completely depending on how you look at it. It reminds me of the story of the blind man and the elephant, each one seeing a different part. Well, Bob was little Bobby, he was Uncle Bob, he was Daddy, he was Grandpa, he was Ranger Bob, he was a Christian, he had so many different roles. He was seen in so many different ways. But of course, we saw him primarily as a magician. And that's why we honor him today with this particular ceremony. And that's why I've asked a couple of his closest magician friends to say a few words on his behalf. Ron, are you ready to say just a few words?
Well, a few words.
Ron Cartledge.
Tonight we're here to honor one of my best friends, Bob Carroll. Well, how did it happen? Well, there were several of us that were members of a club at the Omni Hotel. If you don't know about the Omni Hotel, it's located at William Cannon and IH-35. And Opie Houston, Doc Seaton, and myself were members of what they called the Sun Club. Why was it called the Sun Club? Well, it had a sauna, it had a steam room, it had a weight room, it had a pool, it had a hot tub, and the best thing I think was it had a pasta bar. We all enjoyed that until one day, I don't remember who it was, but somebody brought in a new member. And that new member was Bob Carroll. And we enjoyed solving all the problems in the world in the hot tub. It was a great place to enjoy yourself and to enjoy each other. We did this for a number of years until one day the management at the hotel came to us and said, "We have a problem. The problem was that there was a thief amongst us. It wasn't, it wasn't Bob, it wasn't me, it wasn't Opie, it wasn't Doc. Who was that guy? Well, we kind of figured out who it was.
Wow.
And what he would do would be, he wasn't even a member of the Sun Club. He would sneak into the back room and he would try to open up the lockers, and if he could, he would take whatever he could find and then put the loot up in the top of the ceiling. So it was us to find out who the thief was. It was up to us. And we decided to take the part of being the police. And what we did was we clued the Omni Hotel when the guy that we thought was the thief would come in. And the Omni Hotel put markings on everything that would come off on his hands if he was picking up stuff. They caught him, and we were the heroes. So the Omni Hotel came to us and they said, I think they were talking to Opie, but they said, what can we do to reward y'all for finding this thief for us? And I think it was Opie that spoke up and said, we could sure use a meeting room. So we got a meeting room at no charge for several years and had our club, which was a branch of the Society of American Magicians. And it was called an assembly. And because we had such a beautiful room to have our meetings in, we started to get more and more people who wanted to join us. As a matter of fact, when I became president of the Assembly, which is the Society of American Magicians, as a matter of fact, we had about 24 members at that time. And by the time I left office and Doc Seaton had taken over, and the two of us had become past presidents, we had 120 members in our club. And part of it was due to the beautiful surroundings that we had. And we became the second largest magic chapter in the world, or magic assembly, of the Society of American Magicians. And not only did we notice the outcome, but people that visited us noticed the outcome. Charles Gotchi, a magician from Australia, came to give a lecture to our club. And he said, I don't think I have ever been in a magic club as fabulous as the one that you guys have put together. And there were other magicians that would come in and say the exact same thing. And that helped to build our club too. Now, in the last couple of years, Bob and I became best friends. I mean, we were best friends. And we did a lot of stuff together. And I recall that Bob, a lot of time, would send me a text or would call me on the programs or something. And if he couldn't find me or couldn't get in touch with me, and he wanted to tell me something that I'd done wrong maybe, or something that I'd done right, but he would call my friends, because he liked all the friends that I had. He would call them and say, you know where Ron Cartledge is? Most of them didn't. But we had a great time the last couple of years as best friends. And let me tell you a little bit about Bob and his magic, because Kent talked to you a little bit about it. But Bob's probably three favorite things to do in magic were coins, cards, and what would that third one be? Close up. Stuff that he could do close up. And I have or had until this year, a Christmas party every year for 13 years. And I would always get one of my magician friends to be the principal magician and perform at one of my Christmas parties. And not only that, I had a mariachi band come in and perform. My good friend Zeke Castro from Austin High School would bring a group in and perform. It was just a great party. Well, one day at a party, at one of the parties, Bob wanted to do some performing, and usually I had one guy who was a stud performer. But Bob said he wanted to perform some of the things that he had been working on. And I had a magic room, not as big as this one. If you ever get a chance to come see this one, you need to come see it. But I had a magic room, and he went in there with another magician, and they performed close-up and card magic and coin magic. And I will tell you this, Bob worked hard to become a good magician. And he became very good at what he did. And he was really good that night at my party. Well, he did the magic, and one of my friends, who some of you may know, Moulton Crockett, saw the performance. And he thought, this guy is good. Now, Moulton Crockett probably owns half of Austin. But he was a guy that was just a good guy and gave money to different organizations and things like that. And he went up to Bob and he said, Bob, I really like what you did. And because of that, I would like for you to come and visit our coffee group that we have at my office. And so Bob was honored to, of course, be asked to join the club, which he did, and he was a active member of my group, which was the Magic Coffee Group. And we were together in that group until Moulton Crockett passed away recently. But one thing I want to tell you about Bob is that he will be missed. He was a great guy. He did the right things. And Bob, I hope to see you again someday in heaven.
Thank you, Ron. Obviously, Ron's not the only friend that Bob had in the Magic Club. There are, I would say, hundreds of magicians who Bob befriended. Somebody once said he never met a stranger. But one of his friends is here now. His name is Bertil Fredström. He's originally from Sweden, but we can't pronounce his name, so he calls himself Black Bert.
Thank you, Kenton. Thank you, Ron. And I happen to be the current president of what used to be the world's second biggest SAM assembly. We had 120 members. I think we have 20 now. So I'm so happy to be here and to be able to say a few words about Bob. And maybe it's a little strange that we are such good friends, because There are three things that I hate in magic. It's coins. And it's cards. And it's close. So we didn't do a lot of magic for each other. We talked about all kinds of things, and Bob had so many interests, and he went all in everything. And he asked me to join him to go all in everything, and I managed to stay out of most of them. I remember a Masonic beer group he wanted to join. They made their own beer, and it was a great thing to come and taste it. I never got there. The Knights Templar, he wanted to do some research. He recommended books, and they're still on my nightstand. I haven't read them yet, but but what he had was he was all in friends too, and he had a fantastic family, and I was invited to so many family gatherings, Thanksgivings and Christmas and Easter and all kinds of things. So I really wanted to do something for Bob. And you know, when you have a memorial like this, sometimes what you can do is you release a white bird. As kind of a token. And that's something that magicians can do. They can make a white bird. So very often when they have white gloves, they take off their gloves. And they, boy, look up in the ceiling. This is not a very high ceiling, Kent. But they take the gloves and they throw them up in the air. And the gloves in the middle, in the air, changes into a white dove. Have you seen this? It's a very common magic trick that I thought I'd try to do here. But unfortunately, my hands aren't big enough. So I can't do it. Now, there are other ways to make a white glove appear. You can have, for instance, well, you don't have to have a glove, you can have a silk also. So if you have a silk and you have a magic wand, you wave the magic wand over the silk, and then the dove will appear in the middle of the silk. You must have seen that one, Elaine. It's a very common magic trick, a very famous magic trick. Right out here, you rub the silk, and out of the silk comes a dove. Well, I can't do that either. As I said, my hands aren't big enough. It's a problem. Now, some magicians, they can do this without the help of the magic wand. They don't need the magic wand. But you cannot do it if you don't have a glove. You have to have a glove. Because without a glove, it's impossible. Now, I can tell that you're not that impressed. I can tell that from your silence. But you probably expect bigger things. You say a magician making a dove appear, that's nothing. I want to see a rabbit. Now, to make a rabbit appear, you would need gigantic gloves. I don't have that either. Sorry about that. I brought one more thing, and I think that with the help of some magic, we will be able to make this happen. So I have this beautiful, nice bag. And I'm going to close the zipper, use my magic. Actually, Elaine, can you use the magic wand? Do you know any magic words, Elaine?
Abracadabra.
Abracadabra will work. Wave the magic wand and say, have a banana.
Banana?
Oh, isn't that what you said? Have a banana?
Have a banana. Abracadabra.
Oh, abracadabra. I thought you said have a banana. Wave the magic wand.
Abracadabra.
Okay, excellent. And ladies and gentlemen, here we have, oh, a bunch of bananas. Elaine, did you say it right?
Abracadabra?
You said it abracadabra, and there is the bird.
Oh.
For Bob, for you. Thank you.
So, the magic wand. I teach a class called Tools of the Magician's Trade, and typically we'll have a whiteboard and I'll ask the students, whether it's kids, adults, I ask the students, what are some of the tools of the trade of a plumber, a carpenter, a librarian, a teacher? And we talk about different things, and I say, now, what tools of the trade does a magician have? And they'll say cards, and top hat, and rabbit, and a cape, and colorful boxes, and beautiful assistants, and a saw, and they go a magic wand, and they go through all these things until we fill up the board with dozens and dozens of things. And then I can go through them one at a time and show that although, yes, a magician uses top hats, that's not only magicians. Just think of that picture of Abraham Lincoln that you colored when you were a kid. You know, and certainly magicians use rabbits, but so do gourmet chefs in France. Certainly magicians use playing cards, but so do people playing Texas Hold'em. Certainly magicians will sometimes have beautiful assistants, but so do top executives in this country anyway. So, you know, almost all of these things are not unique. There's one item that is unique to the magician, and that's the magic wand, of course. That's not used by accountants. That's not used by chefs. That's to stir their bouillabaisse. No, the magic wand is something special just for the magician. And when we have a ceremony like this, we need a special magic wand. I've asked my friend and Bob's friend, Chris Walden, to provide one. Thank you, Chris. For this, Chris chose the traditional American magic wand, black with white tips, slim, made of wood. This is a very traditional magic wand. But without a magician to wield it, there's no magic. Without a magician, this is just a stick. Elaine, these are to remind you of the magic that Bob loved, but of course, Elaine, the love of his life. And that seems sad. The magic is gone? No, I didn't say that. The magic continues as long as you remember Bob. The magic continues anytime you see a coin trick, a card trick, close-up magic, or do some math magic. The magic continues forever. So, when a magic act is over, what do we usually do? Well, if we like the magic act, we'll applaud. But you know, if we're inspired by the magician, if we're really going to miss and are sad that the magic show is over, we don't just applaud, we come to our feet. We say, thank you, thank you. I don't care where you are, your living room, your kitchen. Stand up. That's right. Because nobody deserves a standing ovation better than Ranger Bob. He corrected me many times. Bob, it's for you. And that concludes our ceremony. Thank you.